Colleagues, when Mr. Klopper started this morning, he referred to the fact, and these are just 2-3 pen stumps that I'd like to share initially. He referred to the fact that we are in this together, and irrespective of our numbers in terms of membership, we are exponentially servicing education and focusing on the benefits of our learners. That's a fact. It's normal. It's normal for a teacher to say things like this. However, yesterday I had been confronted with 2, not only newspaper reports, published reports. And I hate them because I'm upset when I get to some of these. And the one said, education, the biggest failure. And then it continued by saying, for the government. I'm not talking politics. I'm not talking politics. The reason why I'm saying this is merely to confirm that I hate to connect my profession, for which I have been waking up 42 years in concession, to go to my school. This is where you go every morning, not for a failure. Definitely not. And I do understand the context. I understand context. And it's fine for us to debate and to participate in the debate of the day, whether it's critical or not. The second article made me feel a little better, and it confirmed our being here today. The title was Relationships and Partnerships might be part of the key solution. That made me truly feel better. And that confirms the necessity and the importance of this discussion. And colleagues, can I tell you, each one of you could have come to the front and share your own experience about this, because we know this. We know this. But I'm going to focus on the fundamental glue. And in terms of fundamental, I like the word because fundamental says, let's strip everything else and let's see what remains. That's fundamental. Right? I have a couple of foci, and this is our topic. It's about adhesive. It's about the glue. And can I tell you, it's not about the wood. It's not about the wood. It's about what's inside there. The white, the glue. And therefore, our topic, colleagues, is not, and I didn't prepare for this because that wasn't my brief. It wasn't about the role and the responsibilities of the governing body or the school or the principal. I'm not debating that. I'm talking about the glue, somewhere in between, in the layers. The numbers that I'm showing is just part of my foci, and I want you to grasp the foci. So the second one truly says, and this is a technique which I believe in, and can I say, whenever the very challenging issues in your classroom or in your office comes to the table, and you can request the people just to stand away from the crowd. And it's incredibly important because the one person might indicate that the guy actually jumped the robot, and the other one said no, he was tracing around, it was of too high speed around the corner. But it provides us with a perspective. The perspective I'd like to share at this point about relations, about the glue, is the fact that we need to put this against the context. And the context is the following, colleagues. The context is the fact that this used to be true. And our schools and our classes were traditional, rigid, closed, boundaries, compliance, autocratic. Now remember some 30, 40 years ago, the sheriff, the one-horse sheriff town. That's what schools used to be. Can you remember some of that? Of course it was. The principal was the only person that said, and that was it. And they determined. And he called the shots. That's it. However, the reality, the stand away from the crowd perspective, is one where we say, yes, our schools are changing. Fresh, futuristic, open, engagement, building bridges, democratic, multi-directional, isn't it? Why am I saying this? Because we cannot allow a discongruent situation to develop in your school and in the community. What does it mean? It purely means that the world that we live in and that we try and create in our schools and our communities can't be different to the one that our children needs to move into. We're taking them into the 21st century. They know it's about creativity. They know it's about the social responsibility. And we know this is part of our 21st century learner because it is about communication and collaboration, and so I can continue. I can add to that the fourth industrial revolution. I can add that the character of the fourth industrial revolution are enormous. Artificial intelligence, robotics, coding, and so I can continue. Let me not debate all of these. What is important in terms of the skills, and with that I conclude in terms of this, is that in 2015 and 2020, there are some similarities, but the importance and the priority of some of them have moved. All we are saying is, colleagues, this is the backdrop for where our learners will find themselves. So how can we create a different world where this is not congruent? So, colleagues, what does the school use? What was the school really? In the past, the function of the traditional school was to transmit a social heritage to the community. It used to be like it. And it used to be very important. The chief business was to transmit to a next generation those skills, facts, and standards of moral and social conduct that adults consider to be important. What has changed? The mandate of the new school will have an emphasis on teaching to a heavy emphasis, move from emphasis on teaching to a heavy one on learning. A functional contributor to the social society, to the current society. They will have to come up with the solving of solutions. Let me leave that. The point I'm making is, colleagues, therefore, the school needs to be an open system. It cannot be fixed. It cannot be so tied up that it's impossible for us to be able to infuse, and I'm going to come to the word again. The school will have to serve as a society in the miniature, a microcosmos of reality. And this is a wonderful definition of school. A microcosmos of the reality. Because this is what happens in a classroom. It happens in your classroom when the learners are in your school, in your class. It's a microcosm. And therefore, colleagues, the community and the society, whatever word we use, number of people, common lines, common spirit, common aims. You get the message. Therefore, no school is an island. You referred to it in your opening remark. Community is an encatchment area. It's a social system. There's a symbiotic and mutual relationship, as neither can do without the other. We used to think it was possible in another way. For teachers purely referred to them as being the governing body or groups or neighbors or businesses and institutions. And therefore, important words are highlighted: interdependence, unbreakable, reciprocal relationship, primary mission of education, the community children. They need to know the greater deal about the community and the family from which the children come. Colleagues, and therefore, the literature refers to attachments. And these attachments are real. And you know them because they are primary, experiential, professional, civic. And if you look at them closer, this is what it is. We know that the primary attachment of the school focus is the learners as the primary beneficiary. Familiar, we know that we're talking about parents and relatives. Our alumni and alumni, the professional ones, you and I. Civic, those who are elected to oversee a school or volunteer time and services. And socioeconomic refers to the taxpayers and local businesses, and so we can continue. However, colleagues, whilst we must accept that no community, no school community will start next Monday, or has started last week and Friday, some of this has already been true, is present in the community. But had it not been present, and may I advise, or just drop the link or the possible hint, that in some way celebrate the fact that people are together in your community. Get them together to confirm we are here for the same cause and for the same reason. Because initially, there's only potential while people try to find each other. Then there's coalescence. They're exploring the connectedness. And ideally, we want everybody to be active with typical activities such as supporting, sharing. But I'm going to stop the graph right there. Luckily, the graph shows an upward trend. But I'm going to stop it because I'll show and I'll explain the rest of it very shortly. And if I share this, I'd like to add the following. There's one red dot in the middle. And colleagues, there's no doubt about that. That's you. That's the principal and his management team. And in some way, this is true about them. It's also the red one in the middle. It's about the gears that they, in some way, that they activate and that they influence. Many times this is also possible. We have to jiggle and secure that we succeed in doing so. Because irrespective of how we are, we can in no way find ourselves behind our desk in our offices or only in our classrooms as our own management of time and communication, management of others, the operational standards and the strategic development needs to happen. What am I saying? I'm just saying it's an active process. We will not be able to sit back and expect that the glue will be there. Not at all. And therefore, colleagues, I think the glue is about this. It is about this. And it is about relationships. And this is why, in terms of the community and the school, we're looking at the total capacity, the climate, the cohesion. And there's a wonderful remark that I'd like to read. This person, and this comes from literature, and the literature confirms, one incontrovertible finding emerges from my career spent working in and around schools. The nature of relationships among the adults within a school has a greater influence on the character and the quality of that school and on student accomplishment than anything else. Than anything else. And therefore, my next two if statements. If the relationships are trusting, generous, helpful, cooperative, then the relationship between teachers and students, between students and students, between teachers and parents are likely to be trusting, generous, helpful, and cooperative. It will repeat itself. It will repeat itself as a natural sequence of events. Whilst if, on the other hand, relationships are fearful, competitive, suspicious, corrosive, what a strong word in the relationship context, corrosive, then qualities will disseminate throughout, these qualities will disseminate throughout the school community. Therefore, colleagues, I'm not going to debate each one of these, but this is a typical healthy relationship wheel. Do you know, the fact of the matter is it's applicable between two individuals, but it's applicable in the community. It's applicable amongst the role players and the attachments that we refer to in an earlier slide, because it reflects respect and honesty, responsible parenting, economic partnership, etc. So colleagues, just another presentation. Let me leave that one. I'm going to highlight this quickly, and I'm not going to discuss all of it. I'm going to make extracts from it and highlight just some of them, because these are the very ordinary things that happen in and amongst people, and the moment groups and people work together. Listen to this. It says, express the care. Show me that you trust me. Challenge growth. Show me to keep getting better. Expect my best. When last have we indicated or challenged, in the good sense of the word, the growth that confirms my support for what is expected? Provide support. Help me complete my task and achieve my goals. If we say this, maybe the echo on the other side is, please help me. Share the power. Treat me with respect and allow me time to do so. Expand the possibilities. Connect me with the people and places that broaden my horizon. Colleagues, these are the very simple ones, and you can add to them. But this is part of the glue. Can I just add that relationships, and I need to share this, relationships comes before the fact that we have partners. Let's establish the warmth and the kindness and the integrity in the relationship that will lead to a partnership within our school communities. And colleagues, what happens, and this is unfortunate truth, but I think this is also immensely important for us to discuss and to stop for a moment and say it and tell ourselves, what happens if there's no glue? Because if there's no glue, and this baseball manager, Casey Stengel, said, getting the good people is easy. Getting them to play together is a hard part. And colleagues, it may be difficult, isn't it? Some of you, and you confirming this, sometimes the challenges of the relationships are difficult. And it's difficult for us to manage and to create, to get into being. So, how can the failures be? What can the failure mechanisms be? And I want you to look at this very carefully, because it's very powerful in itself. One can be structural. In other words, there's one section, there's another section, and there's a structural failure. Is there a structural wow? Is there a structural problem in the school or a structural problem in the community? So the failure can be on that level. Or is it an at ease of one, where it's merely true that the glue didn't bond? Or is it about the cohesion, the fact that it totally separates in some way? And that's how we can fail, how our relationships can fail. And colleagues, with no glue, and this is what the literature says, and I'm going to enjoy this because I truly enjoyed reading about this. They have connected this, and you will be able to share from your own experience and knowledge of children. Literature refers to parallel play. Parallel play is actually when children just find themselves close to each other. These pictures are true. And it says, when a child plays alongside another child, but there's no interaction. Can it happen in the community? Yes, it can. Can you see that? Have you seen that? Have you observed that? Your own children, the children in the school, your own grandchildren maybe? Because they're so focused, they wouldn't touch each other. But they're immensely dedicated to what they're doing. The following is another example. Sorry, those ones. Can you see how focused they are? Each on their own little toys? But they truly don't really care what the one next to him does or will be doing, except for the fact that they might put a lot of sand in each other's faces because that might also happen. And it can happen. This says, imagine the 2 3-year-old engaged in opposite corners of a sandbox. One has a shovel of a bucket, the other a rake and a hoe, and at no time do they share their tools, let alone they collaborate to build a sandcastle. They may inadvertently throw sand in each other's faces from time to time, but they seldom interact intentionally. Those in close proximity for a long period of time, each is so self-absorbed, so totally engrossed in what he or she is doing, that the two of them will go on for hours working in isolation. Colleagues, that's not what we want. That's not what we need to create in our communities. The sad thing is that parallel play becomes parallel talk. And you can listen and you can refrain. And you may also judge where you have learned and heard these. And can I show a few examples? The school principal said, we educators have drawn our wagons into a circle and trained our guns. That's it. This is us. And we here. And let the world know that. Parallel talk. You don't want your child in that classroom. It's grim, joyless place with desks and rows and endless worksheets. We as governing body said so. Get used to it, that's how we operate here. Have you heard it? Yeah, we all live in our separate caves. Notice on the wall of the faculty lounge, captured in it even better. We're all in this alone. Colleagues, the signs of unhealthy relationships I'm not going to discuss, because these you also know. Jealousy, checking up, blaming someone for something else, guilt trips, history of fighting, losing temper. Those are all the signs of unhealthy relationships, which we do not want to cherish in our environment. Can I complete the graph? The graph is terrible, because the graph says, whilst we will all be aiming to be around this space, it is possible that they could be dispersed. It means scattered all over the place. No cohesion. Staying in touch, communicating, holding reunions, calling for advice still. Yet it becomes memorable only. We just think about the fact that we had a time together. And they were good times. Colleagues, I'm going to conclude by saying, where you are and how you can reflect on your own environment, your own contribution, it's possible that you can determine what the level of communication really is. And it's not about sending letters to parents. It's about, here I am, about communicating. I don't have to communicate like this. I remember someone sharing this incredible message with me when I was a young principal, and he said, the less you talk, the better the people will hear you. The less you talk, the better the people will hear you. Cooperation, collaboration, coalition, inclusivity. How do we open our arms around people? Cohesion, respect, sincerity, relationships, open, capacity. Have we used the capacity of the community? Innovation, the climate, the culture. Colleagues, the question is, why do we do this? Actually, we've said so all along. Because the fundamental glue is about fostering these relationships and involving their expertise. By doing all of those, the cooperation and the relationships within the community and collaborating. For what reason? For us, in order to encourage our learner growth, to empower them for the future, to secure all benefits for all of our learners. My last slide, my last 2 slides, says the following. It says, therefore, Mike Lipkin published a book on relationships, and he said, we need to be so close that we can dance, so that we can hear the music, so that we can dance. The last one was also very special to me. There were footprints in the sand, and it said, "Don't leave, stay. Don't leave, stay. Stay here." This guy says, "Thank you, and good luck for what you're doing. Thank you very much."